Welcome to another episode of the Seven Mountain Influencer. I am so blessed and honored to be here today with Elizabeth Herder. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Rebecca.
So, Elizabeth and I met from many years ago. I was invited to a party. There was like this, we had called it, I think it was Fire and Pie.
Fire and pie.
Fire and Pie. And then I was doing something with the food there. And then I heard someone come in and like, hey, I love you. And she hugged me from behind. I'm like, who's this woman? I like her. And it was, she had heard something I've done for her sister. So she was excited about that.
Yeah,
So
I was highly motivated that my sister would get married.
Yes.
I had a sister who was still single, and Vibeke was working the system behind the scenes, and I adored her for it.
Thank you. So that's how we met, and she ran a business where she helped nonprofit organization of how to do fundraising the right way, and she's amazing at it. I get to know her over the years. I love the way she build relationship, how she just when she go into a room, she's just like joy and love is coming into the room. So I'm so honored to have you here today.
I'm so honored to be here. And it was a long, long trip to get here.
Yes, yeah.
Straight across the street. Traffic jam. We're neighbors.
We're neighbors. So you started out, and did you always know that you wanted to do this?
No. I always say God hijacked my life in the most amazing, amazing way. And gosh, where to start, Rebecca?
Well, you wanted to be a missionary, or
I didn't. I think that we're all a few people.
Yeah.
I think we each one of us, and I would always say, especially jumping to when I became a mother, if I could be like a couple people at once, I would for sure be a mom. Yeah. I think I'd also maybe, be the president or the vice president. I'd love to do that life. And I think I'd also be a businesswoman, and I think all of us have that inside of us. And a wise woman, Diane Bickle, once said to me in the little years when I had the little babies, and she said, Elizabeth, and she says this to, a lot, she said, you can have it all, just not all at the same time.
Yes.
And it's so wise. It's so wise. So now that I'm 46, so I'm on the back end of a lot of those really intense years of coming of age, understanding who you are, dreaming big dreams, the dreams not turning out, or taking a different road than you thought they were going to take, and arriving 10 years later, oh my goodness, and getting married and having the children. I'm just astounded at the actual path of how the Lord takes us, as opposed to what we think. Like when we, go to college and we have to declare a major.
Yeah.
And I always tell kids, don't even worry about it. I don't know a single 17 or 18-year-old who actually knows what they want to do. Yeah. My brother may be an exception. He knew, he went to the Naval Academy, he got all fancy, and he's a fancy pilot. So, you know what I mean? You do have exceptions like that. But most need a winding journey. And so I did grow up in the ministry.
Yeah.
But I had a very interesting childhood because I was raised in the inner city of Chicago. So, for any, now you'll know, because you heard that little accent, for any of you that are familiar with Chicago, I apologize if I'm not looking at you. There we go. Am I looking? I need to bring that, you guys. I love talking to people, but I can't see you. I can only see me right now. So inner city of Chicago, oh man, such great stories. My parents were Californians. And so they always say we lived in culture shock for the 30 years we were in Chicago. And please, not suburbs, guys. I used to say, if you don't hear drive-by shootings at night, you do not live in Chicago. Stop telling me you're from Chicago, and then you find out that they're from Schaumburg or, some real, Oak Park, real nice suburb. Like, no, total city here, And so my childhood was full of juxtapositions. My family culture was very educated and very prized that and followed the Lord and really pursued that, and my grandparent, everybody was doctors and lawyers and da-da-da. But here we were in the middle of the city, and we were laboring and loving and building our lives. Like my life was built with the people of the city.
Yeah.
Not with fancy people, not with nobody Ivy League, none of this, stuff. And it was just the people, the real people of the city. And so it was multicultural, it was, many ethnicities. I was a minority, honestly, as a white person in the middle of the city. And it was such a beautiful way to grow up.
Wow.
It just gave us so many tools. And, we've got just great stories. I mean, who gets to grow up like knowing for sure, if you left your bike out at night, it would be gone in the morning. Like, it's not like you have to wonder, man, I wonder, it will not be there. It will not be there. We have this great story of waking up on Christmas morning. And we had this little evergreen. We just had one. There was just one on our little patch of grass. And we woke up and somebody had sawed it down for their own Christmas tree in the middle of the night. I mean, like, this was just normal. And you're like, oh gosh, hey, Dad, the Latin Kings tagged the garage again. Got to paint it. So this is my life. But when I tell people that, everyone, they're just like, you do not. It just doesn't. Something does not compute.
Yeah.
And I think all of us are like that, right? We have these incredibly deep reservoirs of life experience and what the Lord gave us and our families and our experiences that no one would ever know. Mm-hmm. And we're always seeking to be known. And so when you find that place of thriving and being known, it's you take off. And that a few people in my life gave me that platform, and in business and in ministry. And those were people who were operating in their assignment on one of those 7 mountains. And they called me up and said, how about you sit next to me and check it out and see if you like the vantage point? And I loved it.
Oh, gosh.
When I got to business, I loved it. I used to drive home from work. And this is not a lie. I used to drive home from work, and I just wished it was the morning. Because that would mean I'd be driving to work, and I would be there again and seeing those people and doing those deals and just using my mind that way anyways.
Wow, that's so good to want to go to job, your work every day. It means that you're living your God-given purpose. Mm-hmm. So there are many mountains. How old were you and when you knew which mountain you were called to?
The Lord had to actually hijack me because, and so I'm assuming that a lot of people that are in ministry follow and listen to this. And I'll say that this is complicated because I'm not going to at all say that my path was wrong. My path was right. And I sought the Lord and sought to be obedient. But I think what he did is he gave me tastes of things that I thought I wanted and are little pieces of me. They are little pieces, but they aren't the main assignment. Yeah. And he gave me these tastes so that I could go drink at that fountain and then go, no, I don't want to stay here. And so I did missions. I was with YWAM for 3 years, went to college, went to YWAM, went back to college. And then I actually moved to, this is fun. When I was in college, I thought I was going to be a teacher.
Yeah.
I seriously I declared a major at I don't know, you do like 65, right? You're always changing. I mean, at least when I was a kid, everyone's always changing their major. And at one point I declared that I was going to be in youth ministry. Okay, Vibeke, you know me. Like, super bad idea. That's not me at all. But as a young person, I thought what I was doing was I had seen this model of my parents who were brilliant. Like, my dad went to Dartmouth and Harvard Law, okay? And when he met Jesus, he burned his diplomas, burned his encyclopedias, burned it all for Jesus. My mom was at Berkeley Medical School. And so they are brilliant people, okay? But we lived very simple, very poor because they were in the ministry. Yeah. And I think what happened is I got in my mind that the best way to serve the Lord was to be in ministry. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. To burn it all. Now, that was right that my parents did that. It was Jesus movement. I mean, the Lord used them so mightily. They both pastored for over 30 years, just incredible fruit from their lives. But this was my paradigm. So I'm searching to fit myself and who God made me into this prescription that I thought was the way, which was ministry. So I tried for a while. I was like I was getting my degree in secondary education history. I thought, well, that's kind of close to youth ministry, right? You're a teacher. I hated it all.
Oh.
But I'm thinking, oh, and then I thought I'm going to go to law school, but man, why would I do that? Because then I'm going to pay for an education and probably end up being a mom. And, I was just always getting ahead of myself. So what the Lord did is had me move to Kansas City to go to Bible school, to do a church planting track. This is after my years in YWAM, after college, to do a church planting track with the original Metro Christian Fellowship.
Yeah.
Here in Kansas City. I know lots of your people are not in Kansas City. I don't know how much you know about the life of the ministry here that we're a part of, but it was before the International House of Prayer and Mike Bickle, if you've heard of that. But this was Mike's Bible school, came to do that. Well, I needed a job. So remember that I'm here to do a church planting track. I think I'm going to go plant a church. Okay. I need a job. And so I pursue what I think is a no-brainer job. That's what I called it. I need like a bagel shop or a coffee shop. And there was this little church bulletin, and there was this company called Net Sales. If Bob Fraser ever watches these, he's just going to love this. Net Sales. And they needed some customer service reps. Well, we are 1997. I don't know. I'd never been on the internet. I mean, you know what I mean? In 97, we had our college gave us an email address, and you had to sign up for a slot to go use the computer, and you got 5 minutes. I mean, it just was not ubiquitous at all. So I signed up for this job, and wow, my life blows up, because it was like finding where you belong, and suddenly you just shine.
Yeah.
You just shine. And Bob Fraser and his executive team gave me a chance to be this person. And I loved being in business. So there were just a bunch of us during the .com, boom, bunch of us that just accelerated in business and didn't even know we were gifted that way. And
how old were you?
I was still pretty young. I was 24, 25.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, aren't I supposed to get married at this point? Like, what's happening? And no, the Lord did not have that for quite a while still. I ended up getting recruited away from Kansas City. I had fun clients like Veggie Tales, and I mean, super fun. Like, so I did all my traveling and my life living before getting married and having kids, and now I have this new life. But yeah,
that's so fun.
So then I came back to Kansas City and I'd done a bunch of years in business, excelled, been very successful. And I came back to Kansas City to help the International House of Prayer on their kind of operations and business side. So for these last 20
years. Was that
years,
the partnership? Or,
okay. Well, I started the partner department.
Okay.
Because I realized, because I love people. That's really it's kind of my deal in my whole life. It's just, I love people. I'm an extrovert. I love to hang out. I love to talk. I love people. That's why I wish you guys were like here instead of on the other side of the screen. And I came to IHOP at first to help the bookstore. Okay. So I was kind of, for 2 years, I kind of helped the bookstore, took over that, made it salient, and it was, we made it work. It wasn't working, and we made it work.
I'll just say that.
And then I thought, hey, Mike, we probably should have like a logo. God's doing cool stuff with the International House of Prayer. Now, guys, I didn't have a marketing degree. All I had was exposure to all of the elements that make things successful, right?
Yeah.
So I said, I think we need a color palette, and I think we need a logo. And so, okay, that's what we did. So I started the marketing department for IHOP.
Yeah.
And there was a brilliant designer, Tom Morse Brown. I don't know if you've ever met him, and his wife are here in Kansas City. And he came up with, we worked together, and he's the designer behind the flame logo that everybody sees. Nice. So that was from us, from our team. And then very quickly, I realized our partners, people send donations, and they feel connected to this place. And for many, it's like their church. and they're sent. I don't think we say thank you. I don't, oh boy. I like, I start just kind of asking, like, how do we engage with our donors and say thank you? And how do we take care of them? And found that we didn't. And so I started our partner department.
Wow. So did you, I mean, that is a huge accomplishment, you guys, to start a partner development, you know, at International House of Prayer. Did you like take any course? Like this is, you just like was thinking about the other people that was
Exactly.
were donating.
Exactly. All I had to do was think about how I would want to be treated, how I
Yeah.
did like to be treated
Yeah.
when I was giving, and how I would want to be asked
Yeah.
to partner and to give more. And that really, it was that simple. And every single decision that I made and how I built that department stemmed out of that. I love relationship and I love people and I'm an extrovert. Not everybody's an extrovert, but everybody has the same love, valve,
Yeah.
like to feel valued, to feel seen. And so I
Yeah.
built the whole department around our donors being valued and being seen and
Yeah.
having access to the people that they loved. They felt connected to our leaders and the ones that shared the word and worshiped. And so I built this system where I was always endeavoring to get our faithful donors in the same room with those people and help everybody understand that no one and not, there's not it's not that anyone in ministry wants to think this black and white, Vibeke. They don't, but sometimes we have behaviors that if we don't actually look at the root of them and where it's coming from, they end up telling a story that we never meant for them to tell, but it's our fault. We have to look inside. And for donors, that's being seen as a checkbook.
Yeah.
And many people feel that from even the organizations that they support.
Yeah.
They feel that there's this tit for tat exchange. Like, if I do this, then you do this. But if I don't do this, then you'll stop paying attention to me. And then the donors that maybe only give $5, $10 a month, something like that, that often are completely ignored. And maybe they get an auto email if they're lucky, right? And so what I did is I tried to build this culture of every gift is sacred. Every gift is sacred.
It's so good.
If we think of the parable of the widow's mite,
Yeah.
right? I will tell you that in 20 years of being in fundraising, I don't like that word, but in fundraising, I've absolutely dealt with very, very donors that had incredible resources to give away. These people are writing checks of millions and millions of dollars, right?
Yeah.
And people that have $20 to give away. I have seen so much more sacrifice from those small gifts, and there's sacrifice everywhere, but there's just a precious nature to and when you look at, maybe you've been around for 10 years and you look at your database and you realize that Sally has been giving $10 every single month for 10 years. That's incredible faithfulness.
Yeah.
And that $10 to her might actually be way more of a sacrifice than the $1 million that guy I was sitting next to wrote the check for.
That's so good. I mean, I don't know if you can hear it, but the passion and the depth of love Elizabeth shared about having focus on the donor, it really touched me because I have seen, I haven't done fundraising myself, so I don't know, but I have met people, and the picture that I get is like, hey, I am called by God. This is my calling, and you have a job, so you should support me. So how do you change that? Because uh, so that it doesn't ministry doesn't get a bad reputation. Because it's like I feel like you are a very healthy, good, fruitful piece of that puzzle. To just like, how do you change that?
Yeah. You hit on something that's so tender, honestly, for people in ministry and for people that that have to raise support and live by engaging with their family and their friends and asking them for support. And it's very challenging. And so I never want to dishonor the extreme challenge that it is.
Yeah.
But I will tell you that it's probably, it's living on a precipice, relationally, obviously financially and spiritually, that is very narrow. And spiritually, I think that it is something that often makes people feel and experience a way of being alive in faith that they've never experienced before. And that's part of the draw of it, is like, oh my gosh, I have to rely on the Lord for every little bit. But I think sometimes that overshadows the hard work that is supposed to be part of doing anything we do, including being in ministry and setting our hands and learning how to be excellent and work excellently. So yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but I can see you coming a mile away if I get an invitation for coffee and we haven't talked in a year or whatever, and suddenly you're going on a mission trip and I get an invitation for coffee. Not doing it, because that kind of, again, let's go back to, it's a sacred exchange. Okay. It's a sacred partnership. So we both have a role to play. There's the senders and there's the goers. I know you recently interviewed Lauren Cunningham. And this is a principle that he teaches very, very strongly. You can send or you can go. Okay. But the sending isn't a wave from the shore, have fun storming the castle, see you later. Right. It's an actual partnership. And that's something that we did at IHOP, is our partners felt like they were like almost like staff members. They are part of making this thing happen. So to take it to maybe someone who's raising support and is trying to kind of, it's an offense to relationship. Now I feel strongly about this. It's an offense to relationship and the sacred nature and the sacred bonds of relationship to take a relationship that does not have that kind of stability and doesn't have that kind of bond and suddenly ask to take from it. You work and give me something because I'm doing the work of God. Every new client that I work with, I say, I'm probably going to make you cry at some point, because I'm going to say something really honest, like, no, you don't deserve that money. It's a spirit of entitlement. Just because you have a calling, just because you feel that God has laid a path in front of you, I don't care if it's starting an orphanage or doing inner city ministry or being an intercessory missionary in the prayer room, just because you feel that calling, that is not the reason that people give to you. The reason
is not above. Just to clarify, like there are everyone is called, but I think what you mean, that they feel this very special.
Yes, very special, entitled. So if you haven't built a relationship, sown into that person and been a part of their lives in some way, shape, or form, and actually have a true relationship, I have a strong opinion you have no business asking them to support you. There's a lot of organizations that do that kind of stuff, churches, foundations, etc. And there are some times where you can, without any relationship, see if a place would support you. Most of the time, the answer is going to be no. I will tell you that. So again, what we do is we bring this back to the work, part of the work that you're doing as a minister, as you're building relationships with people. But if you do it only so that you'll be supported, everyone can see through that. Anyways, we could talk for forever about that, but it comes down to the sacredness of relationship.
I love that. And even generally in business where there are no fundraising, it's like built on relationship. It's like one of the marketing principle that we teach. It's about relationship first.
It is.
So
I used to tell my boss when I was in business, I was young, I didn't know much at all. And so it wasn't from a book or anything. And it was just because of my observation. And I would just tell them, I would say, you're going to land that client because they love me. So when you put me on a plane to go sit in their office, if I portray trustworthiness and joy and confidence, you're going to land them. But it's not so much because of the company. It's because I'm representing the company and they love me.
Yeah.
I don't mean that prideful. There's a ton of people, they love you. It's just important.
Yeah, but everyone loves Elizabeth, right?
I got some stories. Not everybody, Vibeke, I promise. I got some stories.
So you have just focused on relationship first, caring about people, connecting people, and what's been the result?
The result, it's a tricky thing. I would never say I have raised for organizations because these are teams, these are systems.
Yeah.
But I will say that the teams and systems that I have led and built with a lot of supporting, you need your marketing team, you need your everything, have raised over 150 million. We're probably more like 160 million at this point with all the different organizations that I've worked with. That's exhilarating to me.
Yeah.
That's for the kingdom.
Yeah.
That's for the kingdom. And I see this stark difference in organizations that I work with, Vibeke. So let's talk about what's hard.
Yeah.
What's hard is slowing down and taking a minute to build your partner, department, whatever you call it, donor care, to build that advancement, capacity building, to build it well. It's really hard. I'm going to use kind of an edgy word. I'm sure you guys can handle it. I always tell my clients, it's just not sexy. You want it to be. I just said this to somebody yesterday. I said, you want to go white whale hunting. I understand that is what gets you super thrilled, because you dream of a foundation that's going to write you an $85,000 check.
Yeah. Or
a really wealthy donor that if you just were at dinner and you said the right thing and then they got excited. It really doesn't happen like that very often, almost ever. Those things do happen, and they happen to a lot of my clients, but only out of relationship. They happen once that guy put in, one of the organizations that I work with got a $300,000 check for a project that we were raising money for here at the end of the year. But guess what? It was a relationship he built for 5 years.
Yeah.
5 years of nothing.
Yeah.
There weren't a bunch of checks to tell him, hey, a big one's coming.
Yeah.
Maybe a few, but so it's investment in my clients that get that and go, I would rather slow down and build this right, learn how to say thank you, learn how to give back. Because how do we give back to our donors? Is we wrap them up in the story. How honoring is that, to wrap them up in the story and tell them you're part of it? Vibeke, we went out to lunch or something.
Yeah.
And we were talking about, and you told me this story that I thought was so amazing.
Yeah.
Tell.
Yeah. So my husband and I, we support a human sex trafficking organization that they work many different places. But they have dedicated one woman to take care of Peter and I. And I'm sure she have more than only us. But she's like sending emails. Hey, I've been thinking about you this week. How can I pray for you?
Wow.
And then this fall, she sent me an image of one of the girls that had been set free in human sex trafficking. She had painted a picture of herself. And I'm like, oh my God, now I want to give more. And then
she didn't ask you to give more, did she?
She didn't ask me. She's just giving value to me.
Yeah.
And then for Christmas, they sent us a Christmas star that was handmade. And maybe it doesn't cost a lot, but I just felt loved and I felt valued. And then I wrote a big check again because I wanted to.
Because you wanted to.
Feel
no manipulation.
No manipulation. I feel exactly what you say is this holy, sacred exchange.
Yeah.
And I feel that we are part of the story. And she keep updating too. So she sent personally email and say, hey, you guys have given this much, and we've been able to save this many girls. We have able to send out SWAT teams. Wow. And I'm like, oh my God, I just want to cry. Yeah. So I feel it's a friendship. And then now and then she will say, hey, is there anything I can do for you? Is there anything you want? Is there any specific prayers you want? And that is just amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah. Not that I don't give to other people if they don't do it,
Sure.
but
They have a lifetime partnering you.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would be very hard. They'd have to do a bunch of crazy stuff to
Yes.
shake you off now.
Yes.
Whereas usually, donor retention is, if we get technical, the holy grail of
Yeah.
fundraising. If you could retain your donors, you're doing amazing.
Yeah.
Did you know that the average donor retention rate is 40%
Oh wow.
for organizations? Can you imagine a business running like that?
Wow.
Can you imagine a business
You
that
can
loses
take off.
You can't. That loses 60% of their clients
Yeah.
year over year. That's the average. Now, when we can get that up, that's when organizations start to fly. And the only way to do that is by doing exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
And if you can't wrap your donors up in the story, you need to take a hard look at what you're doing, because it may not be as exotic as sex trafficking. It may feel a little bit more boring maybe, but there is a way.
Yeah.
I mean, I raised money for 15 years for the International House of Prayer, where people sit in a chair and sing and pray all day.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't think it gets harder than that. Like to understand, in America, they're
So
not
share some tips on what you did.
with them and with
Yes.
other clients.
Yeah.
Well, I do a lot of analysis when I get a client. I do a lot of analysis, and I try and show them, this is where your strength is, and this is where your weakness is.
Yeah.
And then try and help them see these donors as real people. And everybody wants to.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to. They just are. Usually the fundraising has fallen to the director, and they're running so hard. You've experienced this. I know this very firsthand. They're running so hard trying to keep the mission going that they can't. They're like, how do I rescue people or send out thank you letters? And it feels like you have to choose one.
Yeah.
And I am here to tell you, there's a way forward where you don't have to choose, but you do have to invest in it. You have to put in some smart systems, and I can help everybody do that.
Yeah.
And I love doing that. But I've seen, oh my goodness, I've seen so many of my clients have 100% growth year over year.
Yeah.
Imagine what that would change for what you can do.
Yeah.
When your finances are no longer draining, stressful, you're laying awake at night just like, oh my gosh, can we do it? Can we pay the staff? Can we It's just like any other business.
Yeah.
So I always say, would you ever tell your kid to put up a sign for a lemonade stand in a place where there were no cars? They didn't put out any signs. They didn't invite anybody. They never let anybody know they have a little lemonade stand. Okay. And it's on the end of a dirt road, and then be depressed and go, oh, I give up. It's not my calling.
Yeah.
So Vibeke, I think we talked about this earlier. So many, inversely give up on their calling and walk away without realizing, well, you didn't approach it right from the beginning. You thought that being called to ministry meant money was going to rain down from heaven without you having to invest.
Yeah.
Just like any other job. I'm here to tell you, it doesn't happen.
It doesn't rain?
It doesn't rain money.
What?
It doesn't rain money. You can have little spring showers after you've invested many, many years.
Yeah.
But I mean, this last year end, for someone in fundraising, the year end is like a Super Bowl. I say every day is Super Bowl for me, from October to December 31st. Like, it's just, all my clients are working hard and, connecting with their donors to see, are those last minute tax write-offs? Do you want to give again and stuff? And you would think, because of COVID, that it would have been just so rough. Almost every single one of my clients blew it out of the water. It couldn't even believe, our jaws are still on the ground. It's almost like this year of suffering unleashed this generosity in the church. Yeah. That's amazing. But I'll tell you that the places that are getting the funds are the ones that are investing, like the story you told. Yeah. So if you aren't experiencing that, it's time
to call Elizabeth.
It's time to call Elizabeth. But it's also time for a come to Jesus meeting.
Yeah.
And it can be very, very hard.
Yeah.
A lot of times I look at the stuff that an organization sends out, and I go, hey, it's you haven't said the word you one time.
Yeah.
Not one time in all this. You've said me, us, we're so great, we've done all this. That's not how you build a partnership.
Yeah.
It's how it happened with you. Vibeke, you and Peter have been part of rescuing and then you're specific.
Mhm.
So I have lots of tools, and I have this way that I use that I created, whatever, but we can all think of acronyms, and I call it TIPS. It should be timely,
Yeah.
should be inspiring, and here's where it gets hard because the technology is important. It should be personal and specific.
Yeah.
So it's the difference between 4 months later, you getting a note that says, thank you for your $10 gift. We wanted you to know that it was received.
Yeah.
And within 48 hours, getting, dear Peter and Vibeke, your $10 changed X lives.
It
We
makes
did this
so
with
the
it.
difference.
Specific. Anyways,
Yeah.
lots of things like that I do. I love helping. I love helping organizations. I love asking for money for good organizations.
That's
that's a weird gift, right?
That's good. No, it's a great gift. It's a great gift that is needed in the body of Christ. Someone to call out, because the body of Christ shouldn't have the entitlement spirit
or the poverty,
or the poverty, but to have a healthy, fruitful focus on love, focus on Jesus, focus on hope, on including. It is so important.
So important. So important. Good things are going to happen.
Yes.
The Lord is building his kingdom.
Yes. So I want you to say something to all the next generation that are confused about their calling, or they are discouraged maybe because they don't have enough finances to come in, or they're just doubting themselves, or fearful, or thinking, well, Elizabeth got it together, I don't know about me. What is something that you want to just tell from your heart to the next generation?
Well, this is easy because I'm a mom.
Yeah.
And my oldest is 14 now. And so, it's funny when you become a parent, right? It takes you right back to how it re-engages you with how you felt. And I remember being 17 and truly thinking that every decision I made was like being like cement. You know what I mean? Like, this could make or break my life.
Yeah.
And at some point, and it was quite a few years into it, I don't remember exactly how many, at some point, the Lord freed me from that with this revelation. So simple, super simple. But as you can tell, I'm an achiever. So it's harder for people like me. That if your heart is to obey, that's about all you have to worry about. Okay, your path could go like this. You could kind of get it wrong a little bit. And wrong isn't always really even wrong. You could just maybe your application is flawed, which it is for most of us. But if your heart is to obey the will of the Lord for the assignment on your life, he is going to get you there. And it may not look exactly like you thought it would. That doesn't mean that he's not getting you there. So I could not have planned this path. Never could I have planned a path where I'm a mom of 4, running my own, providing for my family, and obviously my husband does too, running a very successful business while able to be a mom. To the best of my ability, the computer shuts at 2:55 when I go get them from school. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And
cook dinner every night, pretty much every night. Vibeke does, pinch it for me when I'm sick. She's like, do you need me to bring you dinner? So sweet. But the closest to having it all. Okay, but the Lord had to wind me there. You don't just arrive. You don't just, any of us, your success, it doesn't happen overnight. You can't say, oh yeah, I've helped people raise $160 million. Well, I couldn't have said that obviously 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And so 20 years ago, I couldn't have been where I am now.
Yeah.
So I would say, do not be discouraged. What I would say to my daughter is, go the path of peace. Seek to obey. Go the path of peace, and he will get you there. He will get, and very few things are as black and white as you think. They're just not.
Good. That's good. Well, I'm so encouraged to hear her story, hear the love of helping others to do fundraising with integrity and honesty. So thank you so much for driving all the way across the street to join me here today. I'm so excited for your journey and what will happen in the next coming years for you.
Thank you. I'm so honored. Thank you for having me, Vibeke. This was really fun.